Hey, this is Andrew Brown from the AWS Cloud Project Bootcamp bringing you another video, and this time we are going to, I don't know, I guess keep fixing up this application because it needs a little bit more work. So we got the relational database hooked up last time. I guess we need to make sure we get DynamoDB hooked up since that is one of our services that used to work. So maybe we'll go ahead and take a look at that. So what I'm going to do here is just cd back a directory. I'm going to make my way over to AWS Management Console. I guess I should really be opening up the app first. I'm all over the place here today, but make sure you are signed in. And the thing is that we want to be able to go to messages, and we need to have another user in here. And right now, we do not have another user that we can communicate with. There is one defect to our application, which is you can do direct messages to folks that are not confirmed, like in a real account, or sorry, real application. They'd have to be confirmed before we do that. But we'll just have to figure that stuff as we go. Another thing is I don't think we actually have the profile page of somebody else that we can click on. Like when I say that, I mean to say that we don't have, I don't think we implemented profile pages. Yeah, so I think that, anyway, I'm rambling here, but let's just go take a look at what we can do by creating another account. So you'll need to have 2 emails for this. And so what I'm going to do is sign up. I'm going to do Andrew at cloudprojectbootcamp.com. Actually, I got to do this over here. I can call this Alt Brown, and we'll do this. This will be Alt Brown, and then I'll put in the password for this account. Okay, and I'll have to go get that confirmation email. So this email goes to my same email. Now, if you're using a Gmail, you can use a plus to make infinite emails. So like if you have an @gmail.com, you could do something like Andrew plus 1, Andrew plus 2, 3 to make multiple accounts if you choose, if you need to do so. But just give me a moment because I have to go log into Outlook and go find this confirmation email. I'll be back in a second, okay? And so I have the confirmation code. So I'm just going to go ahead and type Andrew at cloudprojectbootcamp.com, and we'll go ahead and paste in that code. And so this one's confirmed, so we can see the other Andrew Brown. I'm going to sign in now. Again, that's just a kind of a defect of this application's UI. And we'll go ahead and sign in. Great. I'm going to go ahead and create a new CRUD. And so here I'm going to type in today is my first day on Crudder. Okay, we'll go ahead and press that CRUD, and so you can see that one is above. We both have the same name, even though it should be called Alt Brown, because down below it says Alt Brown. So I'll give this a refresh, and maybe there's something in our code that we need to fix there, because these look like they're hard-coded or it's providing the wrong value. Now, I do remember that we didn't finish the implementation of this, and it could be just hard-coded to that value, and that's probably what it is. So this is a great opportunity for us to test our CICD pipeline, which is supposed to bake an image and then do a deploy. So what I'm going to do is go over to our backend Flask, and we are looking for that app.py directory. While that is going, I'm going to do a Docker Compose up so that we are saving some time. Actually, before we do that, I'm just going to cancel that. I got to make sure that this Docker Compose YAML is using the standard Docker file because we do not want to run in prod. And I'll do a compose up again here. And while this is working, I'm going to go down below here, and we're going to go find that implementation of the activities there. So in here we have, I'm just trying to find it here. We have messages, which is the one we want to copy from. And then somewhere here, we have creating an activity. Okay, and so down below, this is hard-coded. That's not what we want it to do. We want to infer it based on the person that is messaging. So I just kind of lost that there. I just had it, though, a moment ago. And I'm just looking for create message here. And so in here, we want to get the access token, just as before. Whoops, I did not mean to click on anything. That just sometimes happens. So we will go ahead and grab these lines here. We'll paste that on in. We'll say allow. And I'm just going to hit enter here. And so we have our claims. Our claims is going to be the Cognito user ID here. So I'll go ahead and paste that on in here. And instead of passing the handle, we'll pass in the Cognito user ID. So we'll paste that in there instead. And then we'll need to indent this. Here we need to have the, here down below. So we'll bring this in. This is our try. So we'll paste that in. I'm not sure why there's a return here. That really shouldn't be there, but we'll just remove that. Okay, and so this should do what we want. So now we need to go to this create activity function because we've changed the way it works. So we'll go into services, create activity, and now this is going to be the Cognito user ID. And we will open up wherever the create messages is. I think it's here, or sorry, up here. And so this one passes in the Cognito user ID. And so we should have some error handling on here. Now we don't have a user handle, so we'll go ahead and grab this instead and replace this. Okay. And then on the left-hand side here, we are still looking to see how we are using this. So down below, we query that data. Now that's grabbing it for multiple users. We just want it for that single user. What we can do is we could pass in the handle or the user Cognito ID instead of the handle, and it could create it that way. So here, I'm going to instead paste that in. So we'll go to the top here, and I'll go down below, and we will replace the user handle with Cognito user ID. And I'll do that again here. And now we can go into our activities create over in our SQL. So that would be in our DB directory, our SQL, and then we have activities create. And so instead of passing the handle, we are getting it from the Cognito user ID. Okay, and so that way we'll create in the context, the correct context that we want it to be in. I'm going to go over here to anything, and I'm just going to do a bin DB setup. And so that's going to set up our database there. So that looks really good. The next thing I want to do is go test this. So we'll go to our ports here. We'll go to port 3000. And I want to see that it's creating in the correct context because it was hard-coded as Andrew Brown before. We do need to create another account here. So I'm just trying to think about this for a moment. What we'll do is I'll go to my seed data. And I'm just going to place in Alt Brown, Cloud Project Bootcamp.com. This will be Alt Brown. Of course, you would have to have your own. So I'm just trying to use a real one that is in our Cognito that we can go against. Now, we really should have a separate Cognito for development and in production. But since we have yet to turn our Cognito into a CloudFormation template, we just don't have that other one there, but we probably should really do that. So anyway, we have our Alt Brown here. We do have a script that will populate it. I want to go take a look and see if it only does it for one or it will do it for both. So under our bin directory here, we'll go into our, maybe it's under Cognito. No, it's under RDS or maybe it's the database. Yeah, update the Cognito user IDs. And so here I'm trying to determine if it's only doing it for one or just for any ones it finds. So get all the users, and if it matches, then it will populate it. So it should do it for all of them, actually. So what we'll do here is we'll just run that manually and see if it actually works. Well, actually, what we'll have to do is do a, we'll have to drop that database there. So I'm going to do a bin db kill all because it seems like we have to do that quite often. And then we will do a setup again, and hopefully that just works. And then what we can do is do a connect to make to see the results. And we'll just select all from users. What I'm looking for here is to see that that other one is confirmed. So if we go down here, and it has a Cognito user ID, so that is perfect. These other ones seem to have a Cognito user ID, which is interesting. Well, those ones don't, so that's good, but these ones do. That's what we wanted. So I'll hit the /Q there so we can quit it. Also, just bump up the font if you're having a hard time reading here. And actually, we probably have to do a down and an up, just because when you kill the connection like that, I know before it messes up the connection for Fargate, or sorry, I don't know, I'm so tongue-tied today, but for the Flask application. And so I'm just going to do that proactively here so that it works correctly. So yeah, maybe we should really be turning Cognito into CloudFormation templates, but I'll decide that after, okay? So I'll just be back here when this is running. All right, so what I'll do is go over to, well, we don't have to go back to ports. We're just going to refresh here. And so now I should be able to sign in as the other one. So Andrew at cloudprojectbootcamp.com. What is the password on this? I don't know. There we go. It was the same, my default one, testing 1, 2, 3 exclamation mark. And so if I write a CRUD here, so this should be by me. And notice it didn't work. That's totally fine. So we'll go over to our terminal here. We will look in Docker. We will go over to our backend Flask. We will view the logs. And so I'm looking for an error. Now we don't see an error here. We'll try to trigger this again. I'll hit CRUD. No token provided. So that endpoint probably just doesn't have it. So what we'll do is go over to our activity form. So we'll just type in form.js. We have message form and activity form. So we'll get activity form, and then beside it, we'll open up the message form. And in here, I'm looking for the access token. So we'll grab this, get access token, and paste that in. I'll scroll on down. And so in here, we can see that we have our get access token in our on submit. So we'll go down here. And this needs just to occur before the post. So I'm looking for the post. It's up here. So this probably has to go here. And then we need the next line. There was someone that solved this where we didn't have to do the double line. That would be a really nice solution to implement. Okay, so that will pass in the bearer token. And so that should resolve our issue there. I'll give this a hard refresh. We'll go here and say, this is my first CRUD message. And we'll hit CRUD. And so now it's posting as alt brown. So that is now solved. The other thing is that we need to roll out the changes. The question really is, does our pipeline work? So that will be the next thing we need to figure out here. So I'll go here and just say, add that all and say fixed the activity form to not be hard-coded. Okay, so that will fix that issue there. And so we should have a branch called prod here, and that should trigger a build, and it should do the deploy. Now, we never tested our new CICD. It did work before, but when it wasn't via CloudFormation. But let's find out what will happen. So what I'm going to do is go and say git checkout. Actually, I won't do it here. I will do it over here and make a pull request. So we'll make a new pull request, and I'm going to make a new one here. Why are these in here? Oh yeah, other students were opening these. I'm just going to go ahead and, well, hold on here. Maybe some of these are useful. Add Lucid Charts, 1 week Postgres DynamoDB, fix BusyBox image typed incorrectly, change sign-up component from a function to an arrow function. Yeah, I don't know. This is not that useful for me, so I'm going to go ahead and just close these. And what we'll do is go ahead, after this is done, we'll just give this a moment. We will create a new pull request. And I'm going to go from prod, which hasn't been updated in a while, to week X. And it seems like we can create a pull request, so we'll go ahead and do that. And so run the CICD for the first time with CloudFormation and see if it performs a build and deploy. Before we do that, I just want to double check that our code pipeline is listening on that branch. It should, of course, but we'll just double check and make sure that's the case. So this one failed because at the time we didn't have it confirmed and it just attempted to do that without asking. And it is set to prod, and so let's go ahead and trigger this and see if it works. So we will go, we got too many tabs open here. We'll go over here and over here, yep. And then we'll go ahead and create that pull request. We will merge that pull request. We'll confirm it. And so now what we'll do is make our way over to code pipeline, and we will observe and see if it's running. Because that should trigger it. AWS Cloud Project Bootcamp, yep. And we merged into prod, right? Merge commits into prod from week X. So why is that not triggering? I don't know. But why don't we go ahead and we just release change. And run the change through the pipeline. Do you want to continue? Yes. Because the first one never was successful, it needs to run at least once. I don't think so. But we'll see what happens here. But it should have triggered it, so that's something that's interesting. All right, so let's take a look here. So we have action execution failed. So no branch prod found for full repository AWS Bootcamp CRUD 2023. So it's saying that that branch doesn't exist. It clearly does. So what I'm thinking here is that maybe it's not connected to the right one. So that's a bit confusing. I'm gonna go edit this. But notice also it says version 2. Remember we set version 1 and I wasn't sure if we had to set version 2, but if we do 1, it actually is 2. Weird, eh? We'll go here and we'll take a look. New GitHub version 2. To add a GitHub version 2 action in your pipeline, you create a connection which uses GitHub apps to access your repository. Use the options below to choose an existing connection or create one. And so we have a connection here. Notice it just says AWS Bootcamp CRUD 2023. It doesn't have the name in front of it. So it's supposed to say omenking / because this is the format it follows. So there's something wrong with our implementation here. We're going to go back over to here and we'll take a look at our CloudFormation. And in our CloudFormation, we have a CICD pipeline. We have a template here. And what I'm looking for is that default value. So in here, I actually put Omen King, AWS Bootcamp CRUD 2023. So I'm not sure why that is messed up. We do have that CodeStar connection version 2. So let's take a look and see if we can find that. So here's our CodeStar connection. It says provider type. But it's not showing much of anything else. Okay, that's fine, but maybe we'll see where that's referenced and then that has more information in it. I do believe it's as simple as that. Yeah, because down below, then we reference it here. And so here we have the full repository ID. And if we go back up here, that's the full name. So what's going on here? Why isn't it showing that there? So I'll go back over here. And this shows not the full name. So what happens if I do this? Okay. And we will hit done and save that and save it again. Now, if I go back into here and we edit this, and we edit it again, it shows the full name. So why isn't it showing the /? So maybe the / is getting cut out for some weird reason. If we go back over here, it is single quoted, so it should be showing up. Interesting. You know what? Maybe it's our overrides. Ah, here it is. That's my problem. I didn't have it in here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back and change that. Actually, we don't have to because it's going to check against the parameters and not what the actual state is, because that's not how CloudFormation works. Terraform actually does check against the state of your application, which is really cool. But what I'm going to do here is go do a bin CFN, and then we'll do our CICD again here with that new configuration. And that also explains why it didn't react to our pull request. So we'll go back over here. We'll go over to CloudFormation. And in here, we are looking for the CICD. I'm going to go over to parameters, change sets, refresh. Oh, sorry, CICD. Not the nested stack, the top one there. We'll go ahead and execute that change set, and I'll be back here when this is successful, okay? Actually, while that's moving, I wasn't being careful about looking at the changes, and I want to see what it's actually doing. So here, it's not going to do any kind of replacement. It's just going to do modify. So yeah, just be considerate about that kind of stuff when you're doing it. For pipeline, it doesn't really matter because it just kind of sits over here. One thing that I keep thinking is that maybe the CodeStar connection should be decoupled so we can easily swap them in and out. But I guess it's not that bad if it had to replace it. But anyway, I'll see you back here in a bit, okay? So that was very quick. The update is now complete. So we'll make our way back over to Code Pipeline. And I'm just going to trigger a superficial deploy because I do want to see it happen from here. And so we'll just update this. So fix the config param. And we're going to make our way back over to here. I'm going to go and create a new pull request. And from here, we will go to prod. And we will choose week X. We'll go ahead and create that pull request. And so we'll go ahead and merge that pull request. Of course, someone else is supposed to merge it for you, but that's what we're doing here. So that is now merging. I'm going to make my way back over to Code Pipeline. We're going to give this a refresh, and we can see they're both in progress because we have them watching on the same thing. So what I want to do is stop this one, stop this execution here, stop and abandon because it's too many. Is it not this one? And we'll hit stop. Okay. So I'm hoping that this one stops. Great. So that one has stopped. The other one has failed. That's totally fine. I want to go ahead and delete this old one. So we'll just type in delete. Hopefully it will just delete the code build for us. That one is gone. I want to make sure that the other code build is gone as well, so we're not getting mixed up between the old and the new one. So we have this one says it's in progress. Source provider, GitHub. Because originally when we created this, we created it first here, and then we added it after the fact. I think that this is the old one because it has such a clean name. And so we'll go ahead and delete this, even though it is currently trying to do something. And so this is the new one. Now notice it says AWS Code Pipeline, but they both worked. So it didn't really matter which way we created it. But let's go back over to Code Pipeline and see what it's complaining about. So it says this one had failed. It failed on the build step, which is totally fine. And we'll open this one up. So image definition, batch enabled is false. That is totally fine. Let's go over to code build and take a look at what the issue is. And I'm looking for build history, so I don't see anything here. Build details. It's not telling me anything. Build triggers. Why isn't it working? I don't know. So we'll go back over to our code pipeline. It could just be a permissions thing. The only unfortunate thing of tearing down the old pipeline was the fact that now we can't use it as a comparison. Probably what I could have done is just remove the source, and that way it would have triggered. Oh, maybe it will show it right here. Project cannot be found. ARN code build CA central project CICD code bake image. What do you mean it can't be found? It's referencing it. So there's something here where it doesn't understand the reference. Error calling start build. Project cannot be found. Okay, well, let's go over here and take a look at the actual code build apps. I'm just seeing if the name matches up. Code build bake image stack 1N73. Now this name is a lot simpler, so I'm a little bit confused what's going on here. But there's clearly something wrong with our CloudFormation, so that's what we'll take a look at here. So in our template here, let's just carefully look at it. Code build image stack. And that's referenced here. I might just simplify this. I don't like how long this name is. So code build. And then down below, we have it here as well. So I'll just paste that there. Code build. This should just work because it's existing code I had. And we'll paste this one in as well. Outputs project name. So we go to the nested part here. And it could be because we're doing it this way that we're running into an issue. Hold on here. Because that's its value. And so probably instead of doing it this way, we should look up code build project and see if we can get the name a different way. Like if you're conventional with the way you name stuff, that's less of an issue. But here we didn't follow it the same way. So I'm just looking for its name. When the logical ID of the resource ref returns the name of the project. So we can just ref that and get the actual name, and maybe that will resolve our issue here. Okay, and so I'm hoping that fixes that. We'll go down here below, and we will deploy our CICD again. Hopefully there are no errors. It's creating a change set, so we're in good shape. Over here, I'm going to go back to CloudFormation, so CFN is the short way to get there. And we'll go back over here. And we just want to wait till that is done. So I'll see you back here when it's done, okay? All right, so I'm back, and I don't know if you noticed, but I'm standing up now. I was just getting tired of sitting. I've been sitting this entire boot camp. I put on 10 pounds just because of all the time I've been sitting down. For those who are watching, try to stand up and do as much as you can. I know next time I do the next boot camp, I'm going to incorporate some wellness into it because that is something that is very hard to remember to do. Anyway, This has now been updated. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I guess attempt to trigger that again. So we did make a superficial commit here. Let's do this again. So fixed code build name. I think that fixed it. And we will go ahead and attempt this again. So I'll go here and make a new pull request now. We don't have to make a new pull request. We could just go ahead and release changes on that repo there, but I'm going to do it this way anyway because this is how I want to do it. So we'll go here, and I will create this new pull request, and we will say trigger a build, please. Okay, and we'll merge that pull request, and we'll make our way back over to code pipeline here. Okay. And it's in progress. And so, did this work? I can't tell. Oh, this is in progress right now, so it has yet to fail. So we'll give it a moment. And now it's doing the build here. And so it seems like it's working, but I'll be back here and we'll look at the progress of this, okay? All right, so let's take a look here. So we do have a failure, which is fine, but we'll see what it's failing about. Hopefully it's not the same darn thing. And it says, is not authorized to perform. So it's getting somewhere else. It's asking for a batch get builds. This is interesting because one of our boot campers was saying, hey, I think you need this permission. I said, oh, I don't think it needs it, but clearly it does. So I guess I was wrong. So we'll go back and I guess add that to the permissions. Really bizarre that it needs it because unless I have batch turned on, you know, why would I need it? But, you know, that's going to solve that problem there. So I'm looking for, who needs permission? Probably code build needs it. So I'm looking for those other ones where I saw it. So we have a batch get item in here. Well, there's only these two roles, so I'm going to guess that it goes here. Well, it doesn't say ECR, though. Or, sorry, code build. Let's go take a look at where I had that before. Well, hold on. Maybe it's up on this level. Oh, okay. Maybe down here. Right. So what I'll do is I will paste that in here. And maybe it wants that. Hopefully it doesn't need all the other permissions. I guess we'll find out. We'll go ahead and hit up and do a bin cfnc CICD. And we'll make our way back over to here and we will go ahead and execute that change set as soon as it lets us do that. Okay, and so now that is going ahead and doing that. And so we'll just wait till that is done. It shouldn't take too long. There we go. Now what we'll do is go back over to our pipeline. I just do not feel like doing pull requests every single second, so I'm just going to go ahead and retry this step here. Which is something that you can do. It'll let you go to the latest step. And we'll go ahead and deploy that and see how that goes. So I'll be back here when that's done. All right, and so this has failed. It might be a permissions issue, and that's totally fine. We'll just go take a look and see what else it wants. Build terminated failed with state. So we'll go here and see if we can get more information. So at least we are getting somewhere else. So it says access denied 403 from downloading the source. So for primary source and source version CRUD artifacts. So we do have a permissions issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to GitHub because I do have that other repo that is in a working state that I know. And so in here, I'm going to go to teacher seat. Of course, this is a private repo, so you can't see it. But I just want to go and compare the permissions here and see what we're missing. Because we did rip out a bunch of stuff that I thought we didn't need, and so maybe there's something that we still need here. So going down below, I'm looking at first code pipeline. And so in code pipeline, we have a policy for the build. So there is the S3 artifact. So maybe what it wants, yeah, we took those permissions out because I thought that we didn't need it. But I didn't realize later on that we added in the artifacts and we had to have that bucket there. So it was somewhere here. We added an artifacts bucket. And so I think that's what it wants. Is permissions to that. Let's go back and take a look and see if we actually did add that in there. So yeah, no, we removed it. So what we'll do is go back over here. And we will go ahead and grab this part here. And I'll just go ahead and paste it in as such. And so this is a little bit different because we don't need to reference it. We just manually created that bucket, if you remember. And so that would be in our config.toml. Go over here for a moment, and then I bring this template over. And so it was this artifact bucket name is how we reference that. So this needs to be changed a little bit. We did find out that we had to put this all in one line at some point in the bootcamp because it was complaining. But anyway, we can probably do a simple sub here now that we are just using a name here. So we'll do arn AWS :s3 : and that should be correct. And then we'll go down one and then we'll do that. And so those are the two permissions that it wants. The question is, does it also require that at the nested template as well? And I'm just looking to see if that permissions is required. It is showing up here. So what I'll do is I will go over to the nested one as well. And we'll bring this in here. Oops, I just want this policy here. And we'll go above here and we'll paste this in. Okay, we'll go ahead and save that. And the other thing is we need to pass in that here. So where we have code build, we'll need to pass that along. So I'm gonna go back over to my original template. Before we do that, we want to make sure that we have that as a parameter, I think. Maybe we don't. Maybe we just need to have this is the nested one, right? Yeah. Maybe we just need to have the parent one. Bootstrap stack. Well, anyway, we do need to pass in that value. So we'll go back up a level and we'll take a look at this one here. And yeah, so that parameter passes that in, but we're going to pass in the name instead. So in our main template here, we are going to go here and we're going to paste this in. And instead of this, it's going to be the artifact bucket name. And then over here, we also have to copy that over here as well. We'll bring in the string. Okay, and so, yeah, and so that way we'll be able to reference it in here. And so that should resolve our issue. We'll go up and we'll try this again. And it's creating that change set. So we will go back over to CloudFormation and we'll go to change sets. Take a look at what it's changing, just modifying, not replacing anything. We'll go ahead and do that. And I'll see you back when that is done. All right, so that's now updated. So what we'll do is go ahead and see if we can trigger our code deploy correctly this time. So we'll go to the top here, release the changes, and hopefully we don't have a permissions issue. But yeah, I guess there was just a lot of things that I forgot that we needed. And sometimes that's a good reason to document your stuff as to why they're there. So if we go down below, maybe I'll go ahead and do that now. So look for that batch. And so here we could just say, even though we are not using, I'll put it up here. Even though we are not using batch for code build, AWS still requires permissions. Okay. And then for the actual bucket, so when we when AWS when the application source downloads the code, it needs to zip it and place it in a bucket. So we need to supply an artifacts bucket. Okay. So that kind of spells out those two things. So next time I look at this code, I don't just rip them out for no reason. Okay. And sorry, I'm just reading some messages here, but now let's go here and see what the issue is now. So there is now another problem. Could be the same thing, could be something else. But why did it fail? So here it says, well, we don't have an access deny, but now it says, please phase context status YAML file error message stat no such file build spec.yaml. So it's expecting a build spec.yaml. Our build spec.yaml is where? Do we not have one already? We should. Maybe it's for only our backend, which is right here. So we do have to specify its path. So that would be in our code build here. Somewhere in here, we can specify where it is. So here it says build spec. And so that's something that we could override. That's something I think I'd like to do. So I'm gonna just copy that and go over to our top template here. And we will then go here, say type string. And we'll go down to our parameters here. We'll just say ref build spec. And then in here, I'm going to provide it as backend Flask, and it'll be build spec.yaml. YAML, YML, whatever, as long as when we specified it's correct. And so this will be our next attempt here. So we'll go ahead and go CICD and deploy that. We'll go back over to our code pipeline, which is over, CloudFormation, over here, and we'll click into here. There is nothing out of the ordinary here, so we'll go ahead and do that. And we will wait for that to complete, okay? All right, so that's been updated. We're gonna make our way back over to code build, and we're going to go into code build here. Whoops. Into the code pipeline, sorry. And we'll click into here. I already forgot what we changed, but I'm sure it was important. We'll release the changes. Don't remember. It was, well, it wasn't a 403 we were getting last time. It was something else. But we'll find out here shortly because this doesn't take too long to build. I'm telling you, I'm really loving being able to stand up again. But I did get out my kitchen mat, and I'm wearing, I forget what you call those. Not, I want to say Tempur-Pedic, but it's, you know, when you get shoes that are prescribed for you, you know, those things. They put them in the soles of your shoes, so it's a perfect fit. So I have those, and that's the only way I could work at a standing desk for any period of time. Now, I wouldn't recommend standing all the time, but I also wouldn't recommend sitting all the time. So for me, a good setup is when you can do sit, lay down, and stand, and rotate between those. But yeah, if I seem a bit more bouncy, it's because I'm standing, and when I'm standing, I'd like to shift and move a lot more. But anyway, it seems like we are having less trouble this time around. We can click into it and see what's going on. Which link is always the question, but we'll click into here. And it says it's in progress, so we'll click into here. And View a native's code build. They sure have a lot of ways to click to it. It's not the best UI, but it seems like, yeah, it's pulling it. And so to my knowledge, it appears to be working. So we'll just have to wait for that to bake. Now, another thing that we could do, I wouldn't recommend it, but what you could do is have a base image, and then it loads on the application code, so it downloads it in the code deploy, like using code deploy, and that way you don't have to keep building your base image. But we are baking the code into our container. It just depends on how you want to do that. Another reason people might prefer not having the application code is because they might want to download the credentials and keys so that they're not stored within ECR. Because it is baking in, I guess not, because it'd be running the runtime. But anyway, there are a few different ways to do it, is my point. But it is proceeding to deploy, so I'll be back here when the deploy is done, okay? All right, and so it looks like our deploy has finished. And so the thing that we are testing out on our main Crutter application was to see if we could fix that, that issue we were having with creating a message. So if I go here and I write a new message, so this should be by Alt Andrew. We'll go ahead and create that. And it didn't work, but hey, at least our changes have probably been rolled out. So what is the reason for that? That is a good question. So what I'm going to do is make my way over to our logs, because we noticed that the logs were not showing up reliably in Elastic Container Service, but we'll check here anyway first. And we'll go down to backend Flask into our logs. And we're not seeing anything useful there, but I'll go here. Okay, and so now we have an error. It's interesting that shows up here, not over there. Not enough values to unpack. Expected 2 and got 1. Okay. Not enough segments. During the handling of the above, the exception, another exception occurred. Error decoding the token headers. The above exception was direct cause of the following exception. So it's having issues decoding the token. This is obviously an older one. So I'm not sure if these are actually relevant anymore. So I'm going to go here. And just to make sure that I can see what I'm doing, I'm going to go ahead and delete all these logs. Okay. No, it's called backend Flask. So there's probably a better way for us to name our logs. I'm going to go back here and try this again. I'm going to refresh here. And so I'm going to just wait for some logs to show up, because I do believe that this will log. But we'll just give it a moment, okay? And we're not seeing anything in our logs, so this is not the most helpful here today, but we'll go back here and... I mean, there's ECS backend Flask here. Maybe this is actually where it's logging. So yeah, this is really hard when we don't have rollbar working. We really need rollbar to work, because if it doesn't work, then we can't tell what's going on. So I think that is something that we'll have to fix first. Clearly, there is something going on here. But maybe what I can do is just log out and sign back in. So we'll say Andrew at cloudprojectbootcamp.com. Capital T, testing, exclamation mark, 1, 2, 3. Let's try this again. Okay, and so there was something wrong with our session. I would really like to actually have error handling on there. So at some point we will have to fix that, because apparently what we're using for Flask is no longer working as the replacement. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure what we need to do for that, but we should make sure that that is working. But what I want to know is, if I click through here, does it have its own page? And it does. The only problem is it's saying for us to edit this page. So when we are on someone else's page, I guess we are Alt Brown. That actually makes sense. If we go into Andrew Brown here, this should have a message button as opposed to what we're seeing here. So we do have more application work to do go. And, we're going to focus more on the application now than the other stuff, the cloud stuff. But when we need to do cloud, we will go do that. But the idea is to get the app working and then decide what we want to do with the stuff here on the right-hand side, because we didn't have time to do ML stuff. And also, would it even work in our application because we aren't collecting data? So could you even do trending or things like that? And if you were able to do it, how could you do it in a way that wasn't exposing people's data? Maybe what it would do, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it would just have to be based on the real-time data that's available. And then you'd have to kind of restrict things based on those. So if you made a message here, notice it says this multiple ones, maybe you have to let data hang around for at least a day. Because if you do it 12 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour, then there's no opportunity for that data to be utilized. So maybe there is a time frame. But I guess the thing is, when you look at Twitter, it does show emerging trends within a certain amount of time. So again, maybe it's not a problem. Maybe we can do something here. And that's something we'll have to think about. Okay. But anyway, I will see you in the next one. I'm just going to consider this video done because we fixed a feature and we did a bunch of stuff with the CICD pipeline. So ciao.